sign this?
And do you want me to, when it's time, do you want?
People can ask questions.
I know people are still coming in, but I want to welcome you to the Sunday Forum today. My name is Rebecca Miller. I'm on the Sunday Forum Committee. And this is our speaker, Emily Bastian from Avivo. And she has a couple of videos that she's going to share. She'll talk more about Avivo, and of course, there's times, there'll be time for questions. And I will, if you have a question, would you please raise your hand, and I'll hand you a mic. I'll bring you the mic, because that way, those that are listening now, and if anyone wants to listen in the future, they'll also hear the question that is being asked. So I'm not going to say any more. There was information, on the website and in the weekly bulletin. And time is of essence, I think. So, Emily, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here and wanting to learn a little bit about Avivo and Avivo Village, and for the invitation. So, my name is Emily Bastian. I am the Vice President of Ending Homelessness at Avivo. It's a pretty great title. Lots of pressure. But it's good. My team and I approach our work every day with the true belief that it's possible to end homelessness the way we know it today. That it's possible for homelessness to be rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. And that's really the way we approach the work. And if we didn't believe that every single day and everything that we do, our work would not work. So we really need to approach it with that belief. And Plymouth is such a great partner in kind of ending homelessness efforts in general. And so it's really great to be here with you. You probably are aware, but Avivo is the service provider working with Beacon at Lydia Apartments, right across the street. And so we work with some of your peers and parishioners, and we use some of your space for meetings and everything, so thank you for being the great partner and neighbor that you have been. So I am going to talk a little bit about Avivo Village, which is kind of the hot topic for the last couple of years in Minneapolis and Hennepin County, and honestly in the nation. And so I'm going to set the stage a little bit for how Avivo Village came to be. We'll talk about what it is. I have a couple of videos to show. I think it's helpful when I'm learning about something to actually see the people that do the work and get a visual for what it is. We don't do many tours because it is where people live, and so this is an opportunity for you to get a glimpse into what this tiny home shelter really is. So we'll do that, and then we'll save some time for questions. But I was sharing, I'm also a college professor, so I am perfectly fine with someone throwing their hand up and asking a question, because that's what my students do. So that being said, Avivo Village is a first of its kind in the country. And I know that because I did a lot of research when before we opened, because I did not want to invent the wheel. I think that the wheel is a really lovely thing, and the wheel works really well, so why reinvent it? But in this case, Avivo really invented the model. There were some sort of similar programs in the country, but nothing that really gave us a roadmap. So it was a unique opportunity for us and a really, really great opportunity for the city and the county to inform services for unsheltered homeless communities in the country, and kind of put us on the map a little bit. Minnesota likes to put themselves on the map for lots of things, and we're doing that again. So in 2018, just by the mere fact that this is where you come to worship, my guess is that you are aware of the Wall of Forgotten Natives down Franklin. It was the largest encampment that we have experienced in the city, I believe, ever. And on top of that, it was very visible. So I have a street outreach team, and we go out and we find people that are sleeping outside, and we provide services, and usually it's a single person or a smaller group. But this was the time that we didn't have to get out of our car to see the encampment. It was very visible, and the sheer number of people living in that community was shocking and sobering. Also, those of us that live in this community were not able to ignore it. As we were driving to work, as we were driving our kids to activities, as any number of things, it was there and visible, and that forced a lot of conversation to happen, and you probably remember a lot of that as well. That forced conversation is what really started, I would say, the process of Avivo Village, because it really brought to the forefront of the community, of citizens who don't work in this field, of people who want to, turn away from the people that are flying a sign asking for money because they're uncomfortable, or the people that want to pass judgment. It just forced that conversation to start happening. And so it was happening all over. It was happening in community meetings and dinner tables and families and everything. And as a result of that, there were a lot of services that were provided to that community. Avivo was one of the organizations who began providing services to that community. And again, there was not a roadmap. We were invited by the individuals living there to come in, I would say because of Avivo's just reputation on the street as it is. And that is what began our relationship with Red Lake Nation and White Earth Nation as well. So fast forward from 2018 to 2020, with the murder of George Floyd and the civil unrest and just the discomfort and the lack of safety in our community, there was a very large encampment near Target on the Lake Hiawatha kind of area. It was referred to as the Sable Bridge encampment because we name encampments based on a landmark that they're close to. There's the Wells Fargo encampment, the Kmart encampment, the Sable Bridge encampment, we're really creative when we name encampments, let me tell you. So the night that the 3rd precinct burnt down is the afternoon, so a few hours before that is the afternoon that my outreach team received the information that it was going to be an unsafe area that night. And so Avivo, honestly, we did not know what we were doing. We were given 4 hours and a school bus and we supported the entire encampment in packing up and moving to a couple of hotels. It was COVID, we knew people weren't safe, and we just needed to get people to safety. It was really scary for my staff, many of them who are individuals of color, many of them who have homes or families in this neighborhood where they were also scared, for their kids to be at home while they were relocating people to a hotel, and so it was a very, very scary time, as I'm sure it was for all of you and your families as well. And the hotel model was incredibly successful. We moved, we started out, we were going to bring 10 people from an encampment to a hotel. That was a bit overwhelming because it was gonna be 24/7, we were gonna have to do meals, 10 people, fine, we can do it. By the end of the night, we had 97. That was a little bit more terrifying. And we were building it as we were flying it. And then we did it, and we were able to get everyone housed. Everyone in the hotel, we were able to find housing for, so they didn't return to homelessness, housing and long-term case management. And then the state asked us to do it again, and so we did. So then we backfilled the hotel another time. We supported those individuals in finding housing, and then the Wall of Forgotten Natives, people moved back there. And so then we filled the hotel a third time. It was in that process that a group of kind of city, county, state, elected, appointed, and employees were holding regular meetings with service providers and just kind of saying there is none of us have a crystal ball, and we know that our expertise is here, your expertise is here, how can we work together? And so Avivo stepped up because, if you will remember, that was also when our park board said that people were able to start living in our parks. And Powderhorn became very, very, very large very quickly. And there are a lot of feelings about how that happened. There are a lot of feelings about the safety or the lack of safety. No matter where you land on that, at the end of the day, there were individuals that didn't have housing in our city, and we're better than that. And so we at Avivo put together a survey of sorts. And we really wanted to approach the work with appreciative inquiry, to walk up to people's tents and invite them to tell us a little bit about themselves and what has brought them to be where they are. So really to change the dynamic a little bit, to say, I would love to learn about you and what has brought you here and what your next best step looks like. And so we asked questions that would help us learn maybe there were already services or supports in the community that people could access and just didn't know how to access or didn't feel safe accessing. So we asked about age, gender, sexual orientation, domestic violence, veteran status, immigration status, kind of all the big heavy hitters where we knew that there might be a path already. And then we asked people, do you have barriers to housing? And if you do, if you feel you have a barrier to housing, tell us what it is. We didn't start the conversation by saying, we know you have barriers to housing, and they're probably this, and this, check the box. We said, what's getting in your way? And that helped all of us, both nonprofit service providers, faith communities, city, county, state, get a better idea, I think, of how many individuals were living there, how many individuals were coming to be there because that's where their community was, and their family and their friends and their elders and their kids, and what services and support was that community most in need of, as opposed to other folks with more power or perceived power making the decisions. And so we asked questions about, if there were beds open in shelters right now, would you be interested? If we were able to help you get into one of those beds, would you be interested? And most of the folks at the encampment said no. And that was there were a couple of really big aha moments, I think, that have started to shift the way that we work with people experiencing unsheltered homelessness, particularly people of color and particularly the Indigenous community. We learned that a lot of people did not have a coordinated entry assessment. Coordinated entry assessment is the way into the traditional system for supportive housing. Many people did not have an assessment, which meant that they were not counted, their information was not there, and they were not in the queue for a HUD subsidy or some other sort of subsidy. They didn't have the assessments because the assessments weren't happening where people were. The assessment was not culturally relevant to the Native American community in particular, but to communities of color that approach life in kind of a large community, more of a communal sort of, family community structure. And folks didn't trust the assessment. Like, why do you need to know all this stuff about me? You don't know me, and all of the things, because it's a vulnerability assessment. And so the more vulnerability you share, the higher your index, the more likely you're gonna get housed. But who wants to share all this painful vulnerability and trauma with someone that they don't know, especially if the tool is not culturally relevant? So, so we had that big aha moment. And then it was also that even if there weren't shelter beds available, let me be clear about that, but even if there were shelter beds available, people were saying, no, we'd rather stay outside. And so we asked people, tell us what would have to happen. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it, what would help you feel safe coming inside? What would it look like? And holy cannoli, it was easy. It was incredibly easy. And the things that they told us are the things that actually developed Avivo Village. So I'm gonna show you a video. It's just a very short video. I may need a little tech support if anyone is tech savvy in here. You would think that I would be, being that I'm a college professor, but I think I missed that. I don't know. I'm also a social worker, so
So Alex is up there. He'll help you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alex, way up there. Yeah, absolutely, yes. So you'll hear it in the video, but I'll tell you, people, possessions, and pets. People, possessions, and pets. If you walk away with one thing that you share with your family and friends and loved ones, or anytime you hear anyone talking about people that choose to be homeless, or people that are service resistant, or how can we as a congregation meet people where they're at, people, possessions, and pets. My family, my community is so important to me. I'm not going to leave them outside to go inside to be with people that I don't know, because these people out here are my people. And I need to be with my people. Possessions. If I don't trust the safety of the few things that I own in the shelter that I'm going to, I'm gonna choose to stay outside with the few things that I own, because they are the few things that I own. And how many of you have pets? Yeah. Would it absolutely kill you to have to choose between giving up your pet and making a choice to get your needs met. I mean, my pets are my family. 100%. I was just telling someone this morning, they're my fur babies. They're my kids. And so people, possessions, and pets. The other things that were important to people are, they said to me, I'm an adult, and I bet that you can come and go from where you live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without having to explain to anyone why you are doing it. Just because I don't have a place to live doesn't mean that I don't have those same rights. I'm an adult. They also said, if I choose to go to fill in the blank and spend the night at a friend's house, I shouldn't lose my shelter spot because I'm connecting with my community. I bet you don't spend every single night at your house or your apartment and no one takes it from you, or you don't have to get it approved. Do people search your bags when you come home? And then the one that was probably the most important was, do you drink at your house? And does anyone judge you for that? Nope, they don't. And we know that people that are housed are using drugs and alcohol, and they're maintaining their housing. And I'm sure many of you have a glass of wine from time to time, and if you were told that you couldn't do that, that would be very disempowering. So those are really the things that people told us, and none of those things were insurmountable. All right, Alex in the back. All right, we're gonna see here. Oh, maybe.
Welcome to Avivo Village. My name is David Jeffries. I'm the program director here, and I also oversee our street outreach team. This isn't a traditional shelter. So we are open 24/7. We have 100 homes, individual homes here for people to live in. And you can bring your pets if you have them. We take couples who live individually in these homes, and so it looks a little different than your traditional shelter where you enter in the evening and exit in the morning.
The winters are harsh here. Living on the streets here is harsh, and there hasn't been a safe space for people to be. And the traditional shelter model hasn't always worked for everybody.
So when they first come in, some of them are tired. They haven't had sleep for days. Some of the residents they're just exhausted. They feel helpless. They feel like they're very emotional. They don't really know how to feel because they've been out on the streets for so long that when they finally come here, they just kind of take a breath, like, oh, I'm okay now.
They need access to everything. So that means access to health care, getting access to benefits like GA, maybe applying for Social Security, getting stable income. They need help with mental health care, getting connected to mental health, medical health, and we also help with things like getting IDs, birth certificates, all the documentation they might need. So helping them get all that stability while they're here. So when they leave here, they're not only to obtain the housing, but able to maintain it as well.
Our residents feel safe because they can trust us. We build rapport with them, and we really get to know them on an individual level. And when they need something, they know that they can come to staff, and they know that they can come to even managers and get their needs met, which hasn't happened out on the streets. The village is set up in a way that it really creates community, and a lot of people take on different roles. We have a resident who's a barber, and he cuts people's hair. We have a resident who is very personable, so if somebody's feeling down, they're always the one that comes in. And so everyone takes a part just like a regular community would do.
The average amount of stay that a resident lives here really depends. It really depends on the person, what their needs are, what's going on for them. We very much come from a person-centered approach. So someone might need to be here for a few days, a few weeks, and we can find them something quickly. There is no time restriction on how long someone can be here. They can be here as long as they need till they get to a place where they feel like, okay, I'm ready to leave here. I'm ready for the next step. I have the tools in my tool belt to be able to do that.
They don't have to be out by 7 a.m. like traditional shelters do. And so we actually get the time to build relationships and build trust, which builds a sense of belonging for everyone.
When we meet them in a person-centered way and do things on their time, it's exciting to see where that can go for someone. All right, go for it. Woo!
You came down from above. I love it. I love it. So that gives you a glimpse of what Avivo Village looks like. Also an opportunity to hear from some of our incredible staff. And I really think that the secret sauce at Avivo Village is that the staff love every single person that comes through the doors. No matter where they've come from, no matter their trauma, no matter their behaviors, no matter their attitude, no matter their choices, no matter what, they honestly love every single person that comes through the door. And I've worked in other shelters, and not saying anything disparaging about other shelters at all. This model is set up to just 100% love up on people and to believe in them, and to, from a non-paternalistic standpoint, truly meet people where they're at. I will share, before we do the next video, I'm gonna share just some of our current stats and outcomes. They're not boring, I promise. Remember, I'm a social worker. So I like stats that I feel like have meaning behind them. And we, you may have heard we've applied for funding through DHS to, if we're funded, we're looking at the possibility of an Avivo Village South. We're also looking at the possibility of an Avivo Village in St. Cloud. We've been working with that community. St. Cloud, yep. The model works. It's not perfect. This is the first of its kind. We are tweaking, we are learning, but municipalities all over the country are reaching out to us. And I truly believe that this is a model that can and will end homelessness as we know it, and support people in communities that have experienced a lot of trauma. So some of our, just some information. So we have had 431 people come through Avivo Village since we opened. We opened December 30th of 2020. We used COVID money, and so we had to be open by the end of 2020. It was a mad dash, let's put it that way. It was not a marathon to get that open. It was a sprint. But so of the 431 people, 100 of them are currently there. So that means that of the 331 people that have come and gone, 195 of the 300 people identify as Native American. And, I don't have the current stats for Minneapolis. Anyone can Google it and look it up. The disparity, if we look at that percentage versus the percentage of people in Minneapolis who identify as Native, there's no way to ignore the disparities. Our average length of stay has been 154 days. So people that have moved, that's for people that have moved in and moved into housing. It's been 154 days. When we first opened, our goal was 90. That's HUD's goal, 3 months, 90. We had a civil unrest, COVID, and we are supporting a community that's been living outside, not accessing resources. And so it can be a slower engagement process. And it needs to be. We cannot rush the engagement or this model doesn't work. This is one of the numbers that I'm the most proud of. We have reversed 179 overdoses. We have reversed 179 overdoses. Yep. So the team, we use Narcan, we use an AED, we do CPR, and we've reversed 179. We are incredibly sad that there are 2 people that we did lose. One, I don't know if you've heard about the xylazine, 1 to xylazine. By the time we realized that there was a medical emergency, xylazine causes you it appears like a diabetic coma, and your blood sugar drops so low that your organs just start to fail. And so that was, so we've had a couple of people that we've lost, incredibly sad. We make sure that we honor them with family and a spirit fire and doing whatever is important to that community. But 179 overdoses reversed, I think speaks to the success of the model. We also have had 17 dogs, 10 cats, a turtle, and a macaque. It's a bird that has a lot of big feelings. And another stat that I think, we have had 18 babies born, which means that is 18 babies who had an opportunity to have access to prenatal care and their mom with less stress while they were growing and coming into the world. And to think about 18 women sleeping outside in tents or somewhere not meant for habitation, without access to care, terrified, that is heartbreaking. And so the fact that we have been able to do that is amazing. Again, we are better than this in Minneapolis. We do not need our next generation literally unsheltered homeless while they're being formed. So those are just a few of the stats. I have lots of stories, lots of other things that I can share if any of you are interested later. I'm sure my contact information is available if anyone has additional questions. We are gonna watch one more video and then have time for a few questions, if that's okay. All right, Alex. Am I good? Okay. I just want to, can I just keep him? Can he come with me to all of my,
Welcome to Avivo Village.
Exactly.
We are a shelter for 100 individuals experiencing unsheltered homelessness with a goal of supporting individuals in accessing robust services and moving from homelessness to supportive housing in the community. We have 100 rooms for individuals to call home for now. There's no time limit for people. We look at kind of 30 days at a time because that is when you have a lease. There's a door that locks for security. People can leave their belongings and know that they can go access services. And we have showers and restrooms, a big community space behind me where we can have activities. Unlike the community that does access traditional shelter, we are really working hard to meet the needs of people who have not been able to come indoors. Every person deserves housing because they are a human, and that's how we approach our work. And then harm reduction speaks to the fact that people don't need to take medication to be deserving of housing. They don't need to decide they don't want to drink to be deserving of housing. We have 2 teams of staff at Avivo Village. We have an operations team, and then we have a services team. And our services team is comprised of housing case managers, mental health case managers, community health workers, and chemical health staff as well. We have about 900 people right now that we're supporting in housing in the community who have exited homelessness. And so everyone will have a case manager, and we will support them in finding housing, and moving into housing, and then maintaining their housing. I've worked within the system, the housing and homelessness system, for a long time, and there are some individuals that there just isn't the right fit for. Having the opportunity to launch a new project that is going to be the right fit for people that have not felt heard is pretty exciting.
Can't decide between a college and a university? Let me help you. In Canada, both college
So we have done 154 of those bell ringings that you saw, and we provide people ongoing support. There is many more than 154 that have had what we would consider a positive exit. That might be reunifying with family, that could be going to a long-term treatment or something, but we really look at that housed number as well, because there's a feeling in the community, I think, sometimes, that this community is unhousable, which could not be further from the truth. And so that is why we really, we keep that statistic separate, so we can really show, no, there are 154 people that were sleeping outside in a tent that are in housing, and they have a lease, and they are one of our neighbors and community members. Thanks. I didn't want her to get going again. So with that, it looks like we have about 8-ish minutes. If anyone has any questions, comments, thoughts, anything?
Oh, thank you. I wondered how you house couples.
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't touch on that. So, yeah, so she wondered how we house couples. And we do house couples. Our shelter, we are an 18 and up, and so we don't have any minors, we don't have any kiddos. Couples, we allow them to each have their own room. So we are a single resident occupancy space, but they can be in everyone that lives there can be in each other's space as much as they want. So some of our couples use one area as a living room, one area as a bedroom, or one area as storage, one area as, they can figure out how they want to do it that way. That was a lesson learned when we were at the hotel. When we started, I was like, oh, there are 2 beds in a hotel room. These people, these are sisters, or these are partners, or these are, we're gonna put 2 people in they can push beds together, we're gonna put 2 people in a room. And I learned very quickly that people experiencing homelessness are no different than me. I need my own space from my partner. They also need their own space. And so we do give everyone a separate space. So 100 rooms, 100 people.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, where are you located? Is it like in a big warehouse? Or second question, do you go to the people in the, tent cities or on street corners, inviting them to Avivo? And the third question is, how do you handle anger issues amongst the restaurant?
Yeah. So we are located in the North Loop. We're on Washington and Plymouth in the North Loop area. The North Loop community, I don't know if any of you live there, but the North Loop community has been so incredibly welcoming. I mean, I was concerned. You know, the North Loop community is growing, it is trendy, it is, you know, all of the things that I was concerned that there was gonna be kind of a NIMBY feeling approach toward us, and it could not be more different than that. The North Loop Neighborhood Association has been incredible. They do activities with us, and the breweries do like donation drives, and I mean, it has been incredible. So yes, we're in the North Loop. Yeah, it's wonderful. Now the bar is set pretty high for South Minneapolis and St. Cloud, though, I will say that. We do have an outreach team. There are several other organizations that have an outreach team as well. And so it's the outreach teams that are out in the community providing services to folks that are sleeping outside who make the referrals for people that come indoors. And then anger was your question. You know, behaviors of any sort, when people are under a tremendous amount of stress, people exhibit big behaviors and big feelings. They can, right? Especially people who haven't had maybe a primary caregiver or an experience that has helped them learn kind of their own internal coping mechanisms and distress tolerance and all of that. So we have 5 resident advocates that work on the floor by the tiny homes at all times. We do room checks every 2 hours for safety. We do every other day housekeeping inspections, and it's the resident advocates' responsibility, kind of like in a college dorm, to get to know people so that we know if they're having a bad day. We know if they're fighting with someone. We know if they have just had a breakup. We know if they can't get in to see their prescriber and they don't have their meds, all of that sort of thing. And so we're able to really kind of get at things before they turn into a big thing. We have had a couple of incidents. We have 100 people who are under stress and a tremendous amount of trauma. We do have 2 security guards. We have 24-hour security. With a security company, they do not dress like security guards. They're not armed. They are loving door people. And they have an incredible presence where they have built a relationship with folks. You know, we go on a lot of walks with people. We have a Zen den where there's like yoga balls and a chalkboard wall where people can draw. We have a guitar, a keyboard, weights, different things so that we can also help support people in learning distress tolerance and learning what works for them to let those feelings and that stress out. Most of us in this room, I'm making an assumption, but most of us probably had someone in our lives when we were younger that taught us how to do that and showed us how to do that. And many of the people that we're working with that have just had such intense trauma did not have that. And so we're helping to kind of give people options and teach some of those things.
Hi, thanks. I had 2 questions. The first one was just what is the current wait time for somebody to get a room? And then if you could just talk more, I know my understanding is one of the traditional barriers for a lot of shelters is because they are gender. You have to go even to the men's shelter, the women's shelter. That's been really, a barrier for people who are in an LGBTQ relationship or who maybe are trans or two-spirit or non-binary. And so I don't know if you have stats on those kinds of, folks who have been able to come and take advantage of Avivo.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are an entirely ungendered program. We do not, even our intake forms, it's literally a blank line so that people can identify how they would like to identify to us. We preferred pronouns, we use preferred names. Our bathrooms and shower facilities are all single bathrooms, single showers, and they're all gender. There is no, we don't say we'll take X number of fill in the blank and X number of fill in the blank. And so we do end up with a lot of folks that don't feel safe going indoors to other shelters. And then how long is the wait? So that question is a bit tricky, only because working with the population that we're working with, we have chosen not to do a waiting list. We do a priority pool. And the reason that we have chosen to do a priority pool is that if you're number 327 on the waiting list, you think it's never going to happen. And if you're number 1 on the waiting list and you might be out of town, you might be in detox, you may have gotten arrested and taken to jail for public urination because you're sleeping outside and there aren't enough restroom facilities, you lose your spot. And then you go to number 2 and you have to start all over. Or maybe you're just not, I hate using the phrase not ready, because I think that everyone is ready given the right programming and services, but maybe today just isn't the day for you. That's okay, you don't lose your spot. So we have a priority pool. There are about 600 people that are currently sleeping somewhere not meant for habitation, which is the phrase that HUD uses, that we've adopted. About 600 people that have said, we will come inside when there is a spot at Avivo Village, but until then we're staying outside. And we're starting to track that number in HMIS, which is our homelessness management information system, so that we can really show that. And it's that information that has caused us to apply to expand, because we have our hands full. We didn't need more to do. But hearing that many people outside saying, I'll come in when you have something available, is the reason that we're trying to do more.
Time is up, I hate to say.
Yeah. And I will stick around for a few minutes. I hear that there's a service that starts in about 10 minutes, so some of you are probably going to that. My guess is maybe you aren't all, so I'll hang out for a bit.
So Emily, thank you so much for talking with us. I don't know about all of you, but I found it incredibly moving. And thank you for the work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you all for caring enough about the community and our neighbors, for coming to learn a little bit, for being a member of this parish who does such great things in the community, and for supporting us across the street at Lydia. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wanted to let you know, next Sunday, Ted Lewis will be speaking about restorative justice, and specifically, about and resolving conflict, but specifically within churches. So I hope you can come next week. Thank you.